and malnutrition,
climate change,
unsafe food,
deforestation,
poverty, soil erosion,
inequality,
human rights violations and abuses.
Food systems adds to these problems.
We are the future.
the young
generations.
But our future is uncertain.
Food,
environment,
people.
We're all connected.
Our beautiful planet
should nourish us.
Food shouldn't kill us.
Food doesn't have to cost the earth.
food can be a way to create,
not to destroy,
To learn and to honor and to protect our past and our future.
to build mutual respect,
Fairness.
Understand.
Collaboration.
we must act for food.
And act for change.
So we can have
good food for all.
we can pledge.
We can act.
We can change our world.
Join the movement
for better food systems.
Welcome everyone to this very exciting panel today between youth leaders and business leaders. And we're going to talk about our food systems and how to fix it. Well, before we start the panel, a few housekeeping rules. Please note this session is being recorded, and please feel free to let us know who you are and where you're coming from in the chat box. And this is going to be a very, very tight panel, so I don't think we have a lot of time for questions at the end. But if you do have some questions, please send it to us. And I'm sure our panelists will be more than happy to, answer them. Okay, so before we start, so what is Act4Food and Act4Change? So Act4Food and Act4Change is a youth-initiated and youth-led campaign in support of the UN Food Systems Summit and the Good Food for All campaign. It brings together young people from around the world to focus on their personal actions as a contribution to the food system change. Now, I will invite Priya to explain to us, our youth leader Priya, to explain to us a little bit more about Actions for Change and what are the Actions for Changes.
Yes, thank you so much, Shrimoy. It's lovely to be here. So the Actions for Change, and I would like to start by saying that as the youth, we are doers, we want to take action, and 2020 has kickstarted the decade of youth activism, and it's up to us to bring about these changes and to achieve the SDGs by 2030. And the Actions for Change are just that. They are for all of us as youth, as governments, as businesses, to take action on the pledge to improve food systems over the next 10 years. Hundreds of youth across the world sent in their submissions for what these actions should be, and we have narrowed it down to a long list of 17. And now it's up to us to vote and decide on the top 5 actions. And we've already got more than 2,000 votes, with votes coming separately from China as well. And as you can see on the screen in front of us, that these are some of the top actions that have been shortlisted. For example, everyone should be able to afford healthy and nutritious food. Retailers and food businesses must reduce food waste. Every child should eat a healthy and sustainable meal at school, college, or nursery. So as you can see, that if you are passionate about something in the food systems, there's something in these Actions for Change for you. And the best part is that once all of these things have been voted upon, we as the youth will then be presenting our priority actions for change at the UN Food Systems Summit. So that is extremely exciting, and this is our chance to have our voice heard at the highest level and hold governments and businesses accountable for creating the food systems that we all deserve. So I can't wait for all of you to vote and for us to see what our top actions are.
Thank you so much, Priya. Well, now's the time to introduce our very, I must say, gender diverse panel. And I'm so happy to see all 3 business leaders that we have today are women. Well, I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's start with Deanne Branstetter, Vice President of Nutrition and Wellness for Compass Group, North America. She leads a team that coordinates wellness programs for food service clients and develops innovative and award-winning cross-sector nutrition and wellness initiatives. Thanks, Diane, for joining us. Deanne. Next, we have Cecilia McLevy. She's a committed and passionate spokesperson for the plant-based revolution. She's the Director of Sustainable Eating and Public Affairs at Oatly. Thanks. Finally, we have Christina Alonso Alicia, Head of Corporate Health and Safety and Environment at Bayer AG. Christina is an in-depth believer that nutrition is at the core of our health and development as human beings. Thank you all of you for being here. Well, now's the time to introduce our youth leaders. Well, let's start with Priya, who you've already heard before. Priya Prakash, youth leader from India. Priya Prakash is a healthcare entrepreneur and the founder and CEO of Health Set Go, with a vision to ensure every child in India grows up healthy. Priya also is Forbes 30 under 30. So thanks, Priya, for joining us. Then we have Webster Makombe, youth leader from Zimbabwe. Webster is a 21-year-old second-year law student at the University of Zimbabwe, and he's a youth leader for nutrition with the Scaling Up Nutrition movement. And finally, we've got Taylor Quinn, youth leader from Canada. Come on, Taylor. Taylor is a social entrepreneur dedicated to designing and implementing nutritious, low-cost food systems. Thanks all of you for joining us. So a few things. We would love the session to be productive, friendly, solutions-focused, but challenging. So let's begin. My question first, so I would, first invite all of our business leaders to tell us a bit about, the actions for change and what are the actions for change that you're implementing within your business to transform the food systems. Who should we start with? Let's start with Deanne then.
Thank you. I am delighted to be part of this important conversation. Compass Group is the world's leading on-site food and services company. We serve over 5.5 billion meals a year to guests across all generations, including youth in K-12 schools and colleges and universities. We're passionate about making sure that every child has access to healthy meals at school and college, because it provides a foundation for lifelong learning and gives students a place they can connect with others, recharge, and enjoy a sense of happiness and discovery. From an overall philosophy, we focus on the intersection of nutrition and sustainability. Our offer starts with wholesome and environmentally friendly ingredients, things like sustainable seafood, poultry raised without the routine use of antibiotics, local produce, plant-based proteins. Then we craft delicious dishes and serve them in environments that make the healthy and sustainable choice the easy choice. In higher education, for example, we've greatly expanded plant-based and vegan recipes and offerings, and have launched very popular vegan dining hall takeovers. We know that food and nutrition insecurity has been increasing among college students. So we're addressing this with food pantries, meal plans that include free meals, and university referrals to community resources for food insecure students. In K-12, the composition of school meals is often highly regulated. So in many countries, less healthful items aren't even offered. Free and reduced price meals are also provided to those in need. During the pandemic, when most schools transitioned to virtual classes, Chartwell School Dining in the US produced and delivered 325 million meals to children at various community locations so that every child had access to a healthy meal, even when they weren't in the school building. But it's not nutrition unless it's eaten. So we focus on culinary innovation and engaging students. A highly successful program is called Student Choice, where students are involved at the school level to taste and vote on potential new menu options. And finally, the students we serve are very involved in helping us to reduce food waste. We've used our scale and expertise to create Stop Food Waste Day. This global day of action has been embraced in more than 100 countries by over 100 million participants. Most recently, we partnered with nonprofit Food Tank to host a virtual global event that featured our clients, political leaders, food waste experts, and celebrity chefs. And we invite all of you to join us next year for Stop Food Waste Day on April 27th, 2022.
Thanks, Deanne. Can we get Cecilia now? Cecilia, could you tell us a bit more about what are you guys doing in terms of, the actions for change, and what's the action for change that you guys have chosen to talk about today?
Thanks. First of all, thanks for inviting me to this dialogue. I believe that the campaign Act4Food and Act4Change is a truly important initiative, especially as it provides a global platform for youth. So I was very pleased to see that promoting plant-based diets is among the calls for actions. Research shows that a change in the food system and a shift to an increased production and consumption of plant-based food is needed to tackle challenges linked to climate change, obviously, and public health, as well as to manage to feed the growing population. And plant-based alternatives to dairy and meat products have on average a considerably lower carbon footprint compared to their animal-based counterparts. So, and moreover, shifting from an animal to a plant-based diet has been demonstrated to have a significant positive effect on the combat against many lifestyle non-communicable diseases, such as cardiovascular diseases, some cancers, and type 2 diabetes and obesity. Oatly was founded back in the 1990s. It's based on Swedish research. So we're headquartered in Malmö, Sweden, and we were founded on research at Lund University. And we're all about promoting a shift to plant-based production and consumption. We're dedicated to make it easy for people to shift to oat-based dairy products. And I would say that our contribution to a sustainable food system is threefold. First of all, we offer people to replace traditional animal-based dairy with oat-based dairy products used in the same way as the traditional products. In this way, people can reduce the climate footprint. We use our voice to challenge norms and push for a shift to plant-based diets to tackle climate change and public health challenges. And we engage in conversations like these and others to influence the political system because we believe a transformation of the food system is both important and urgent. And I would like to use the opportunity to actually address a second call for action because I think it's very closely interlinked to the transition which we have been engaged in, and that's the one on environmental food labeling. We as a company are strong advocates for the food industry declaring the climate footprint of their products. We would even ask for it to be mandatory because we believe it's a consumer right. And this is also a way to empower consumers with knowledge for them to know the climate footprint of the food they buy and consume. And we therefore partner with a platform called Carbon Cloud to calculate our climate footprint on our products and communicate the climate footprint of our products in Europe. Today's food prices do not reflect a true price from producing food, considering the impact it has on the planet. So we think it is important to add that information. And we believe that this is a tool which would also facilitate for people to shift to more plant-based foods when people would know the different impacts food has on the climate. So those would be the areas of actions that I would like to address. And again, thank you so much for inviting me. I feel delighted and very privileged to be part of the panel.
Thanks, Cecilia. That sounds like a lot of things that you are implementing. And finally, let's get Christina from Bayer. So Christina, tell us a bit about what Bayer is doing in terms of actions for change. What are your focus action points? And yeah, would love to hear more.
Thank you, Shrim, and thank you for inviting me to this panel. It's really exciting, and I'm really a supporter of seeing young people really engaging and moving because, guys, it's going to be your world, so we better get it right together. I work at Bayer, and our Bayer vision is pretty bold, I would say. It's health for all and hunger for none. And actually, that's something we are not going to be doing alone, but really in big collaborations with you and with many others. Our core areas of the company are healthcare and agriculture, so we take it on us to make a real contribution to improving food systems while ensuring that our natural resources are used sustainably. I started my career at Bayer as a scientist, and I chose Bayer because it was rooted in science. And we built on innovation and collaboration to achieve these goals. So we have set for ourselves clear targets for our contribution to the SDGs by 2030. And I would say they are the 100 million targets. First, to support 100 million smallholder farmers to produce enough food and sustain their economies. Smallholder farmers play a major role in feeding us around the world. Second, to provide healthcare access for 100 million people, especially in the areas of self-care and education. And thirdly, and that's one really close to my heart, is to provide 100 million women access to modern contraception so that they can decide on their family planning, plus a number of other sustainability targets that we have put on ourselves. So what you can recognize is that we set the farmer at the center of our activities because we truly believe that contributing to better health, nutrition, education, and supporting women will ensure a more sustainable economy for farmers and communities. And farmers, guess what? They are producing what we eat, so they are essential to this equation. So when we talk about the actions for change, and I was really pleased to see ourselves just reflected in so many of them, but let me give you 3 examples. We talk about creating employment for young farmers and agripreneurs. Well, since several years, we started at Bayer the Youth Act Summit. This is a summit where we invite 100 youth leaders related to agriculture worldwide, and we get together to address and dialogue and think about the challenges that we have to solve together. And afterwards, also these youth leaders become a really, I would say, influencers. My daughter loves this word, she's a teenager as well, to many of the internationally and highly influential activities around the world. For example, the UN Committee on Food Security in Rome or many others. But also we have people that really make a huge difference to their communities and to their countries. Like, for example, Aliu made in his home country in Nigeria around the COVID crisis. We also have a Safe Use Ambassador program where, starting in Asia, we work with universities to provide upfront information and education on the safe use of products so that this can be then further given to communities so that crops are protected, but also the environment and people are protected as well. We also take very seriously waste reduction, and I can tell you I take it also very personally in my family and at my home, because this is essential as it both contributes to improve economies, increase access to nutritious foods, but also supports the best use of resources. And here really the development of new seed varieties that are resistant to the climate that we have, that they are targeted to the realities of every agricultural system, but that they are also, for example, having a longer shelf life, like the Ansel tomato in India have a major role. Or activities that we do, for example, on the Bayer Gap service that supports farmers to grow their crops in a way that they will be able to be traded globally and address all the certifications needs that are needed. And then maybe lastly, what we do around sustainable farming. We have set, of course, very clear targets for ourselves to reduce emissions in fields by 2030 by 30%, or also environmental impact by 30% as well for our products. So we think agriculture is really part of the solution. And it's about progressing on not how much we farm and how much we produce, but also incentivizing how we farm. Providing carbon programs so that also capturing carbon is going to be incentivized, and really working with the farmer, the primary producer, because it's the one who knows its land best, and also engaging with others across the food chain. So thank you, Shrim, back to you.
Thank you so much, Christina. Well, so we heard some really important messages here. So seems like children's nutrition, promoting more plant-based diets, and farming. I mean, as a chef and a mother, these are music to my ears. But let's hear from the young people now, the youth, what they have to say. So my questions to all our 3 youth leaders: what do you think are, where do you think the businesses can contribute more in terms of actions for change, and how do you want them to implement these? Well, I'll just keep it open as a question, and let's hear your thoughts. Should we start with Taylor?
Sure. Thank you, Shrim, and thank you to the business leaders for joining us and for supporting the Act4Food Act4Change campaign. And so from my perspective, I work with entrepreneurs developing nutritious low-cost food products in countries like Liberia and Brazil and Somalia every day. And I think our food systems are so complex, but I think at the end of the day, really looking at are healthy food products affordable to consumers as really kind of the through line through which all of our great initiatives can be kind of indexed on. You know, is this initiative or is this action or is this campaign, you know, resulting in food products being healthy and affordable to the end consumer? So I really see that as which is one of our actions for change, that particular one being as a real good benchmarking tool as we're working on different initiatives as businesses, as young people, towards building a better food system. Thank you.
We have very little time left, so I'm going to have some quick words from Webster, and then if we have some time, Priya. Otherwise, Priya, we have plenty of time for the next session. So Webster, can you give us your inputs? You are muted, Webster.
Yeah, I think businesses can definitely help out. Like from my perspective, my main focus would be, you know, on action 3 that speaks about, you know, valuing local and in as much as our food systems are so diverse and all of that, if we really want to transform them and put them together, we have to put much input in valuing local food knowledge, especially in indigenous communities. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Webster. Well, let's move on to our next session. So this session is a very exciting one because there's going to be a one-to-one between the businesses and youth leaders. So that'll be very exciting because, you know, and we have 3 different topics that we're going to discuss. And so here we're going to talk about agriculture, innovation, and food service, and identify from businesses what they would like from young people to help them achieve these actions for change and our SDG goals. But before that, by the way, guys, I have an open questions from a very, very cool DJ turned farmer. I think you must have heard his name, Andy Cato from Groove Armada, the really famous disco band. Well, he's turned into a farmer now, and his company is called Wild Farmed, and they're farming to make the planet better and making us eat better. Anyway, the question from Andy, the question is, the current food system is running out of road. We don't have the time anymore for clever marketing or greenwashing. It's time for proper, meaningful change. With that in mind, how do we move to a world of genuine transparency between brands and consumers that will ensure businesses get the customers they deserve? I will leave it as an open question for youth and businesses to answer, for our next panel. So now let's quickly move on. Now, let's talk about our innovation, which is a great topic, especially for the youth in the food system. So I will invite now Taylor and Cecilia for this debate.
Yeah, thank you, Shrim. Cecilia, so thanks again for taking the time to speak with us. And I personally am a consumer of Oatly, so I'm a big fan of everything your company has accomplished over the last 20 plus years. I think one of the questions, and for myself coming a little bit from the plant-based food industry over the last 5 years, is we've seen amazing growth of the plant-based food industry in markets like North America and Europe. But I'm curious, how does Oatly see the plant-based food movement expanding and kind of evolving as it looks to go into other global markets, especially global markets where consuming meat or dairy products are so core to a food's cuisine? Thank you.
Thanks, Taylor. I mean, to us, we are about facilitating the shift from traditional animal-based dairy by developing and offering modern oat-based dairy products to be used in different cooking, different meals, and so forth. So I mean, that is what we're all about. So I think, and when it comes to the plant-based movement, I find it very inspiring and it brings me great hope that there are so many people trying to find answers and change behaviors to tackle climate change. I mean, that really warms my heart. We are not present in developing countries, however, so it's difficult for me to speak on that. But at our core, we want to facilitate for people to make the shift. So that's what we are about, Taylor. So can I come back with a question to you, Taylor?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
So as I mentioned in the beginning, I would like to have your viewpoint. I think the question that came in is very relevant as well, because we have no time to lose. The transition, the need of the transition is urgent, and also linked to transparency. What's your view on this with climate footprint declaration, where the idea is to communicate the climate impact from products on pack, so to speak, in order to facilitate for consumers to make informed choices? I would like to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, thank you, Cecilia. And I think we're at an incredible moment in the food system where consumers and often young consumers, people under the age of 30 all around the world, are really requiring the purchases they make, requiring more information to make the purchases they're making every day, whether that's, climate footprint information, whether that's really accurate nutrition and health information, whether that's sustainable sourcing practices and understanding, what a relationship with farmers is. And I think, and I know this is something that Oatly is thinking about as well, but I think we're reaching a reckoning around what is the true cost of food, and how expensive can and should food be, and where are the kind of artificial market mechanisms to make certain types of foods cheaper. So I think having more transparent labeling and the leadership Oatly has shown in this area is a really exciting step forward, and a step forward that young people think is really important.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I think it is important. There need to be an increased transparency in that respect. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Great. Thanks, Cecilia.
Thanks so much, the two of you. I mean, it's really great, the conversation we just had. And of course, oat is such a great substitute for dairy. And I think, just in terms of people who want to be vegan, that's such a great alternative to have. And so I think we will now move on to our food system.
I can add one thing, which I think is quite a funny story about Oatly, if I may. It's like originally Oatly was developed by our founder. He was actually a student studying the factors behind lactose intolerance. And when he realized that the majority of the raw population suffer from lactose intolerance, he saw a fantastic business opportunity in that. And then when we turned to oats, which is a traditional Swedish crop, but it's, as you know, it's a very sustainable crop, and it's grown in many parts of the world. And he discovered technology to turn the oats into an oat base. And he loved oats because it also contains fibers. There's a fiber called beta-glucan, which is good for balancing the cholesterol levels in blood. So he really, that is how we started off. And I think that is quite an interesting piece of information that most people don't know. So we were an alternative for people who couldn't take lactose or cow's milk protein. So sorry, but I had to add that.
Thanks for letting us all know. This is a brilliant story, and it's always great to know these, backstories behind why a company was formed in the first place. So thank you, Cecilia. Now I'm going to invite Priya and Deanne to join a conversation about food service, because I think that's a very, very important one as well. And especially growing up, children's meals and, food industry is a big part in that. So let's hear from the two of you. What do you have to say to each other?
Okay, should I start first, Priya? I have a question for you.
Okay, I'm excited.
Okay, of the 17 actions for change, you've done a lot of work on educating youth on the impact of food on their health. Can you explain why this action resonates with you and how you're addressing this in India?
Yes, first of all, thank you so much for giving us your time, Deanne, and thank you so much for asking me this very important question about educating children about healthy food. So as a child, I remember growing up in India, the country of amazing cuisine and food, and having so many options, available when it also came to junk food and processed food while I was growing up. And I think that was a time where there was a huge wave of, mass consumerism when it came to these foods. And, unfortunately, that adversely affected me as a child. I was actually overweight as a child while I was growing up, and that had a huge consequence on not only my physical health, but my mental health and my self-esteem. And, as a young child, it's very difficult to face the consequences of your health, becoming bad when the kind of environment that you're, surrounded with promotes unhealthy food. And, I'm so lucky to be here and talking to you as a healthy woman now, but it was a huge struggle for me to actually get from there into becoming healthier. And that's what I see as a huge issue today in a country like India, and I'm sure other countries. India has the second highest number of obese children in the world, but we also have some of the most malnourished children as well. And when this kind of problem is there in society, it's very important that education about healthy food and nutrition starts from a very young age. And I remember growing up having to educate myself. And so I can only wish and hope for a world where every school and every university has that kind of education, because these habits that are formed from a very young age, those are the habits that are going to last a lifetime, as was mentioned earlier. And so today the work I do with my organization actually educates children in schools across India about healthy food. And it's something so basic, but it's something so important for all of us to lead healthier lifestyles and prevent disease. And I think that really segues me into a question from you, Deanne, because I remember when I was a child and I was in school, I would ask my parents for money to go to the school cafeteria. And I remember having all possible options available to me, from ice cream to chips to deep fried snacks. And I used to really love it. But as I said, I was, because of consuming a lot of these foods, I was suffering from health complications myself. And in a school environment, I should have had healthier options, but I didn't have them. And so I would like to ask you, as the Compass Group, you said you serve millions of meals annually, specifically in school environments. How important do you think it is to not only have access to healthy food in schools, but also educate children about all of these as an organization? Is that a responsibility you take as the Compass Group? And I know you've already spoken about it, but would love to hear more about some of the amazing initiatives of the Compass Group.
Sure. Thank you, Priya. And absolutely, because when you think about it, children in K-12 schools are having one meal a day there. They're also eating a lot of meals outside of school. And in college and university, they can choose to eat with us. They can choose to eat on the outside. So education is critically important. One of the key things is our guests in both K-12 schools and higher education tell us they're much more interested in healthy meals that focus on positive nutrition attributes or positive nutrition messages. Things about reducing sodium or reducing saturated fat, those negative messages of the past, don't resonate with youth. I'm sure you agree. So yes, we're focused on positive nutrition messages and educating and engaging students. We have a program called Fuel in higher education and Mood Boost in K-12 that helps students make a connection between what they choose to eat and how they feel and perform. So knowing what they eat can impact their ability to focus, have energy throughout the day, and even relax in the evening is really empowering. The second piece is that students love learning by doing. And teaching kitchens are very popular in our college and university dining for students to explore food, culinary, and nutrition literacy through active participation. And the active participation part is really key because many students don't know how to prepare healthy meals. And in some cases have never tasted ingredients like whole grains or more unusual fruits and vegetables.
Absolutely.
These sessions also incorporate food waste reduction tips, sustainability messages, and critically important now, an appreciation for diverse food cultures. In K-12, we foster a sense of adventure through something called Discovery Kitchens, which connects nutrition education and cooking demos. In these, a chef and a registered dietitian demonstrate how to prepare a healthy recipe, provide education about its ingredients, and then invite students to taste the recipe. Both Teaching Kitchen and Discovery Kitchen, largely due to the pandemic, also offer virtual food and nutrition classes to students and their families, so we can expand the nutrition education reach outside of the classroom.
Wow, I wish I had these when I was in school. I think these are some fantastic ways to educate students about this. And I feel like if students are exposed to these kinds of interventions at such a young age, I'm sure that they're going to be closer to the food systems, closer to the food that they eat, and then make healthier choices going forward.
We certainly hope so, and that's what we're seeing.
Thank you so much, Deanne. This is amazing. This is music to my ears because, you know, I keep hopping on about kids need to learn cooking at an early age so that they know what they're making, how they're making, and, you know, that's when you eat better. So thank you. And it's a great initiative. And I hope more and more children learn cooking, and the next generation, we have fantastic home chefs. Well, now we're going to move on to another very, very important topic, which is farming. I mean, without farming, we won't have food. However, we still have a big lag in not many young people want to get into farming. So let's hear our, next debate from Webster and Christina, and let's find out how, we can improve the farming and agriculture system, and how do we involve the youth in it. Over to you guys.
Thank you.
So, thank you so much, Shrem. I'll start by asking Christina a question. And my question to you is, how does Bayer plan on working with smallholder farmers, particularly young agripreneurs, in line with Action 3, which speaks about, creating opportunities for young farmers?
Thank you, Webster, and I really appreciate this question, especially coming from you, being yourself also a smallholder farmer in Zimbabwe and studying law at the same time. I'm really impressed. So it's really nice to meet you. And yeah, we already work very closely with smallholder farmers. We've done that for many years, and now we have a clear target to really work and support 100 million by 2030. And really, it's this support is a big word, and we take it very seriously. So farmers are really the ones that know their land best and know their system best. And they also take lots of decisions every season on what to plant, what to use, etc. So where we see ourselves playing a big role is in really enabling the access to all the inputs and the information and the education that is going to support them making the best choice to have the best crop. So, and when we think about inputs, I mean, what plays a huge role is, for example, which seeds to use. No? And we have activities like bridging the seed gap that really will ensure that we can provide these seeds that are best for their crop, for their agricultural situation. But also how the world is progressing now, really, there are lots of data and additional data that start to play a bigger role also for smallholder farmers. And we really aim to make the availability to that a reality for farmers. And the same with crop protection products. Crop protection products continue to have an important role, but it's essential to use the right ones and really to use them also safely. So we are really moving from really using a lot of inputs into really focusing on what we are producing and also how are we producing it, because we want to bring the focus into sustainability of the production, not only volume, but really that crops are produced sustainably. And then I think the other important thing, and you've touched on that, Webster, is that to make it attractive, it has to be economically attractive for farmers. So in the past, investment in farming has not been very, let's say, very attractive because farming is very cyclical. It's very depending on many external factors. So the question is, how can we make it attractive so that farmers have a choice and have an access to an investment that will allow them to bring their crops up? And we think that putting and creating a sustainable economy is going to help farmers, but it's also going to help their communities as well. So these are really the areas where we see ourselves as Bayer playing really a big role in transforming this system and coming from the old thoughts on how agriculture is done into how we see agriculture moving, and continue to rely on smallholder farmers, because you guys are feeding most of the people around the world.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like for most smallholder farmers, like farming is not actually a job; it's a lifestyle.
Exactly, and that links very well to my question, because most people and many young people, especially in urban areas, don't connect the food you get in the supermarket with somebody that had a lot of work to make it grow and available to them. So that's where I would really like to hear your opinion, Webster, is on how can we increase the understanding of young people around the world on agriculture, on its role and on its value for every person's life on this planet.
Okay, well, I think for starters, one of the things that we can start with is if we start in the educational sector. Like for instance, in my country, in the year 2017, the subject of agriculture was made mandatory to be started like in primary schools. So I think that's a very good step to take in trying to make sure that young people understand the importance of agriculture. And then talking from my experiences, as you said, I'm a smallholder farmer, but I only started 2 years back, although the land was available like for ever since I was born. And the reason for that is we as young people, we usually tend to look at farming as a last resort. First, you just want to look for a profession or start a career in something else, and then if it doesn't work out, that's when you then look at farming and agriculture as an alternative. But I think if you're able to just make young people understand that farming, is a lifestyle and it's not a backup plan or anything, it's actually something that you can do and make your life out of it. But then there are also quite a number of perceptions that revolve around farming that make young people shy away from farming, particularly like in Zimbabwe, like in Shona language, they say kurima injuga. Translated in English, it means farming is more like a gamble. So young people don't want to take the risk, because you have to agree with me, farming is very it's very labor intensive, and it demands a lot of money and time. So I think those are some of the reasons why young people just don't want to engage in farming, because they don't want to don't want to put in the money, they don't want to put in the time that is needed. So one of the things that has been changing now is because we now have we now have technology and all. So in order to make farming more appealing, I can say making farming more sexy to young people, is if we tap into that technology and use all that kind of technology that we now have. For instance, I have my friend, she engages in aquaponics, whereby she grows a lot of vegetables in her backyard, and she does not have to go and dig with the hole or touch any data or anything. It's just water and electricity. So I think those are some of the things that we really need. We need to change how farming is done. So if we change how farming is done, that way we can therefore change young people's perception on farming. But for starters, or big corporations like Bayer yourself, you can start maybe mentoring programs like the one you mentioned the Youth AG Summit, where you can just teach young people about the importance of farming, and also the presentation of farming in media as well, like from the media that we watch, from the shows that we watch on TV, plays a greater role, in how young people perceive farming. So if we could change how farming is also presented in media, and all, we can therefore make sure that young people find farming sexy again. Well, I did. So I can now start going around the world helping you, telling other young people that farming is really awesome. Well, the most terrible thing is that you only find that farming is awesome once you start doing it. So before you start doing it as a young person, you won't find that it's really that awesome and nice. So yeah, I think that's what we need to do.
Sorry, we're running out of time, but thank you for such important points. Farming has to be sexy and a way of life, and that is the key message. We have a very sexy farmer in the audience today with us, and Dikato. I mean, I think we should all try to find out, why are not more sexy people doing farming? Anyway, we'll swiftly move on to our final section, because this was such an interesting conversation. I think we could just go on forever. But I will have to wrap up the session. But before I wrap it up, I would love to find out one key message from both businesses and youth leaders about, how can we help each other to achieve all these actions for change. But today we have something very exciting as well. We will be wrapping up the session using the co-create dialogue tool, which will help us see the last key messages of our panelists. If you would like to see this tool in action, there will be a co-create dialogue affiliated session tomorrow where you can join. So let's start with Cecilia.
First of all, thanks. This was so inspiring, and listening, and I mean, looking at what Taylor, Webster, and Priya, what you all are doing already, and what you're sharing. So my key message is to everybody: learn, engage, just like you are doing. And I mean that you have managed to establish this global platform to voice young concerns and work together with business and continue to have these kind of dialogues. I'm just amazed by the conversations today. I just say thanks. So that would be my key message: to just learn, educate, engage, connect, and make informed choices, and put pressure on politicians and business to accommodate your needs.
Did we get Christina in?
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah. So in my view, I mean, COVID has really accelerated a need that was there already. So a normal pace is not an option anymore. So we need to collaborate across stakeholders to make the change. And innovation and also sustainability are part of the solutions. So we need the next generation like you to be at the table of the decisions.
Deanne?
This is the risk of going last. We're incredibly proud of what we've done so far from a Compass Group perspective with many of the actions for change. But I think the thing that's very clear is that we need participation of many stakeholders. We're one piece in this whole sustainable food systems continuum. And so we need all stakeholders engaged to be able to impact change. I also think that, we're so proud of the partnerships that we have with youth leaders. I've been so inspired today by the youth leaders. And I can see in the future, I would love to see in the future that many schools and colleges and universities become sustainable food hubs of innovation and, really moving the ball forward, because I think they have the capacity to be a community innovation hub with regard to sustainable food systems.
Thank you so much. And Webster, over to you.
I think my key message is farming is not a job, it's a lifestyle. So, if we, when children are growing up and then we're teaching them, basic life skills, one of those basic life skills is farming. So they need to know how to farm, have a backyard garden, just plant a little plant so that, from the youngest age, your child can know that they have to venture into farming.
Thank you. And over to Taylor and Priya.
Thanks, Shrim. From my perspective, what I've seen in my work time and time again is that it is actually a great business opportunity to sell healthy, well-marketed, delicious food to the poorest of the poor around the world. So if you're interested in the food system and have a business background, start getting into the business of selling food, healthy food, to low-income consumers. It is the private sector that creates a lot of the malnutrition challenges in the world today, and it's going to be the private sector that brings our food system forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And I guess I'm the last to go. And I think everyone has, of course, said so many things, but I would just like to conclude by saying that every action counts. And I think a lot of times, no matter, what age we are and what stage of life we're in, we always feel like, this one action won't make a difference, but actually it does. And no matter where you're listening from or what you do, if you run a business, if you're a student, you can make a difference. And so go and find out what that way is. If you feel like you don't like something in the world and you want to change it, you can do that. And I hope that this today's discussion at least motivated you to go out and do one good thing that you always wanted to do.
Thank you, everyone. What an amazing panel and what incredible messages. And I mean, I just absolutely loved it. And I hope all of you loved it as well and got to learn something, got to take away something. And like all our youth leaders and business leaders have said, if you have, a mission to change something, just do it. And farming is not a thing to do. It's a lifestyle. We should all go and start planting trees in our house, plant some herbs, and, we can start with that. So thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for joining. And yeah, it was a pleasure.
We all need food, but what we eat is destroying our planet. Our food system affects our oceans, our forests, our climate, and other species. Food is at the center of everything. We have to fix the planet before it's too late. We can try this or this, but we definitely need better information. Carbon footprint, animal welfare. Give us labels so we can make better decisions. We've gathered a list of actions for change. 1. Promote plant-based diets. 2. Stop deforestation and make livestock farming more sustainable. But there are many more. When we work together, we can achieve anything. Let's stop waste, work to end food insecurity for 2 billion people, and fix our broken food system. It's our planet to save. Join us and vote on your top 5 actions for change. Act now, vote now.